All right, what's going on, everyone? My name is Jed, the Flying Spaghetti Auditor. Thank you for tuning in to today's debate. Today, I'm joined by Thomas. Is it okay if I say your Instagram handle, Thomas?
Okay, okay.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll put it in the description if anyone wants to find you. Thomas. I'll just link it down below. That'd be perfect. So, thank you so much for being open and willing to defending your beliefs. Before we get rolling into the debate, I was hoping you could kind of introduce yourself, your history with religion, Christianity, your denomination, anything you think is relevant to today's discussion.
Okay, so I first was atheist like 3 years ago when I was like 10. I was 11, like I was atheist, I was completely anti-religious. Then after a bit I was curious like to know about religion in general. I first started with Judaism. I stayed there for a bit, then I changed to Christianity. Then more I studied Christianity, atheism, Islam, Judaism, all the religions. I came up to the conclusion first that Christianity was true. Then, after studying each denomination, so Protestant, Catholic, and Orthodox, I live in a mainly Catholic country, so I was already knowing about Catholicism. I ended up first Baptist, then after some time, I ended up with the Orthodox Church. I'm precisely of the Rocker Church in a Orthodox Russian Orthodox community. They are really sweet. They are really nice people. I obviously encourage everyone watching this to visit your local Orthodox church. They are really nice people. Even if you're not religious, it's a good experience. The chanting is awesome, and I'm really happy that I came to God. Now, before I said that, I'm not perfect. I am fortunately battling sin because it is still very hard. I'm not perfect. I'm not telling I am. So it is kind of hard. I'm trying my best, but it's going pretty fine.
Good. Right on. Well, perfect. Yeah, I'm curious. Let's start off by talking about what made you switch from being an atheist to a believer. Why did you start believing in God? Why do you believe in God now? What evidence do you have that your God is real?
Okay, so first I was curious more because I'm a very curious person about religion in general. Uh, then I started digging more. I started because I saw atheist debate. I saw atheist online. I know a lot of atheists. I don't really know a lot of Christian because most guys my age are completely atheist. They completely insult directly God. That in Italy is a big problem,
You
mostly
mean
with the
most
younger
people your age
generation.
are atheists where you live or in the whole world?
No, in Italy in general, like most young people are tendents to atheism or agnosticism. So it's very hard to find Christian. But I was curious. I started uh, seeing, like, for example, the so-called contradiction in the Bible. Uh, I started seeing a bit more of the context. I started seeing more of the what they actually meant by the writing, and I came up with the conclusion that Christianity is the most how do we say uh the one that I think is true. Like,
Sure. So you used to be an atheist and you thought there were contradictions in the Bible. And then once you became convinced that there were good explanations or no contradictions in the Bible, then you became a Christian.
yeah. Now, I know I saw your videos. Like, I saw that you talk a lot about contradiction. I know that sometimes you probably rage bait, like saying like there are billions of contradiction. Now,
Sure. Yeah,
uh,
that's hyperbole. But
yeah.
now
Now,
is
I,
the,
I,
I guess
Oh, sorry.
I'm confused. The only reason you're a Christian is because the Bible has no contradictions. Is that what you're saying?
No, bro. That's
Oh,
definitely
okay.
not true. Because I started studying the church history. I started studying some at least evidence or some logical explanation. And I think that even I think that if Christianity is false, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Not like in science and all that stuff, but because like the apostle, for example, they knew Jesus, like they knew what they were doing. They still died. Like they saw Jesus resurrecting, and they still died. Like
How do you know
you
that?
wouldn't die for something that is not true. Like
How do you know that the apostles saw Jesus?
I knew that the apostles saw Jesus because there are the manuscript that we have from uh, the New Testament are from that century, and it's very likely that they saw them. And most people knew the apostle. Most people documented about the apostle and also about Jesus. So it's reasonable that they existed.
So you think because people documented that the apostles saw Jesus, therefore it's okay to conclude that the apostles saw Jesus?
No, I believe that the apostle are actual person, and I believe that if they actually wrote the Bible, they actually saw Jesus and knew Jesus.
So it sounds like you're relying on the gospel's authentic authorship as evidence for God. So, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you think these books were really written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah, I
In
definitely think
in
that.
your study of church history, did you come to the realization that the majority of Bible scholars disagree with that? The majority of Christian scholars recognize that these gospels are all anonymous. We have no idea who wrote them. They're not signed. The names that were attributed to the gospels were first attributed to the Bible or to those particular authors in I think it was about 130 AD, about 100 years after the events took place. And before that,
Well,
there were numerous church fathers who referenced these gospels without ever mentioning who they thought the authors were. They referred to them as anonymous gospels.
now I heard about that. I don't. If sorry if I don't really remember the explanation, but if I'm sorry, but I sorry. Let me. Uh, the gospel. I first of all, not sorry.
Well, before we get too far removed from it, there was another question I had because you brought up contradictions in the Bible. Would you say that if there are no contradictions in the Bible, that proves God exists?
I think it's logical that God exists and that Christianity is true.
What I'm asking is, does the fact that a book does not have contradictions prove that it was written by a God or that a God is real?
No, I think, but we have to take context here because if you are telling me a normal book like a novel or something like that is written by one author in like 1 year by a single person in that time. The Bible is a collection of books written in a span of to 44,000 years. It's by 30 plus authors that claimed the same thing and practically said the same thing.
Well, the fact that the Bible has a lot of authors isn't evidence that any of them were inspired by a God. Lots of Bibles could have multiple authors, and that has no implication on the authorship being divine. Like, for example, God, the most unpleasant character in all fiction by Dan Barker, has a foreword written by Richard Dawkins. But surely you wouldn't think that that book is more likely to be divinely inspired just because it has two authors, right?
No, but if we take a book that is written in a span of 4,000 years, so the author didn't know each other, that's actually amazing. Like that's if we take a book and in a span of 4,000 years by very different author, they say the same exact stuff without contradicting. That's actually some kind of miraculous stuff.
Well, I would say if you had a book written by a bunch of authors over 4,000 years that didn't contradict, it still wouldn't be a miracle. But that's definitely not what we have with the Bible. The Bible is littered with contradictions. I mean, it's overflowing with contradictions. And I do want to correct one thing I said earlier. I said that the first attribution of the Gospels authors was in 130 AD. It was actually 185 AD by Irenaeus in his work Against Heresies. So I just want to correct that. So it was actually about 50 years after when I said. So it was, very, very far into the future. But we can dive into some Bible contradictions if you like. There's many of them out there. For example, we could start at the very beginning where Genesis 1 and 2 contradict each other, where Genesis 1 and 2 both provide different creation accounts of the universe. And they provide the order of creation that they have is in completely different. In one version in Genesis 1, God makes plants first and then animals and then humans. But in Genesis 2, God makes man first and then plants, animals, and then woman. So how do we reconcile that contradiction just within the same book by the same author?
Sorry, can I search a second, like the verse, like on
Yeah,
the
sure.
Bible?
So I'm just referencing Genesis 1, 2. In Genesis 1, I'm going to pull it
Okay,
up at the
so
same
you're
time.
referring to the first chapter of Genesis.
Yep. Yeah. Genesis 1, when God creates the heavens and the earth. If we go down to verse, let's see. It was on day 3. Where is day 3? Day 3 is when God makes plants. He says, let the land produce vegetation. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to kind, and trees bearing fruit. God saw it was good. This is the third day. And then also in Genesis 1, down on day 6 is when God makes animals and then humans. But if we go one chapter forward to Genesis 2, we find the order is now flip-flop in this retelling of the creation story that happens immediately afterwards. My computer's lagging a little bit. Can you still hear me? Thomas, you there?
Do you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you now. Perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Genesis 2, which I have pulled up, starting in verse 4, it completely resets and it says, this is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created, when the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. So it's a retelling of the same events we just heard. And then if we go down to verse 5, it says, oh, I'm sorry, let's go right before that in verse. Sorry, my computer doesn't like streaming and looking stuff up at the same time. All right. Yeah. Starting in verse 5, there's no plants anywhere on the earth. It says, now no shrub had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant had yet sprung up. But back in Genesis 1, God already made plants. So that means this is a retelling of the same events.
No, I don't really remember that. I'm sorry, but from what I know, even if there are some contradiction like this, it's not like that the book is completely thrown out the window. Like it's not even if it is a contradiction, it is like I don't now remember. Sorry, but even if it is like some kind of contradiction, we have to still remember that it was written by humans. Like even if Moses did an error there, it's not that big of a deal if you think about it. Like even if
Well, it seems like
it will be a big of a sorry.
I was going to say, it seems like it would be a big deal because the reason that you switched from being an atheist to a Christian, or one of the reasons, is that you came to the realization that the Bible doesn't have any contradictions. So now, if you're aware that there's a possibility that the Bible could have contradictions, isn't that a big problem?
No, yeah, I'm saying this because I can't remember what that said. Like Like I may be wrong. Like I don't know.
Well, do you have Genesis? Do you have Genesis pulled up right now?
No. What's
Yeah. So I mentioned Genesis 1, how God makes plants and then man, but then now in Genesis 2, there's no plants anywhere. That's in verse 5. No shrub and no plant had yet sprung up anywhere on the earth. And then God, where's God make man? Yeah, verse 7. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. And then in the next verse, it says, Now the Lord God planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there he put the man that he formed. And the Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground. So God made the man first and then trees in Genesis 2. But in Genesis 1, it was in reverse order. It was trees first and then man.
Hmm, I don't really know now.
So I think earlier you said you're open to conceding that the Bible could have some contradictions, but you just don't think they're a big deal.
Like it can. I don't know. Like I don't remember right now because I don't really have a big like I studied like this stuff like months ago, and now it's pretty difficult to me to remember. But
I mean, I'm happy to bring up a few more contradictions too. I made a video about this one. So in the book of 2 Samuel, David is incited by God to take a census of Israel. And then he finds out after counting that Israel has 800,000 men and Judah has 500,000 men. But in the book of First Chronicles 21, the same exact story is retold, but in this version, Satan is the one who incites the census. And then when David counts all the people of Israel, the numbers are different. Now, this time, in this version, it's 630,000 men in Israel and 470,000 in Judah. So the numbers are way off. And it's a different person. In one version, God incites the census, and the other one, Satan incites the census.
okay, so now I remember that one, and the thing is that you're taking from the Masoretic text. In the Masoretic text, that is like from 10 uh, BCE, I don't B AD, I think. In 10 AD, written in 10 AD. But if we read from the Septuagint, that is the Greek text from 3 BC, we come to the conclusion that that is God that let Satan do that. So it's not God that actually do that, but it's Satan that does that. So the verse in Samuel says that it's Satan that does that and that God let that happen. So it doesn't contradict with the. So it's way well preserved than what you said.
So
Now,
you're saying in the original version of 2 Samuel, it's actually God who allows Satan, and this is a mistranslation?
yeah, in the Septuagint.
Okay, well, and maybe that's a good excuse for that one. Maybe it is. But it's questionable that God would allow this contradiction to get into the standard Bible.
Well, now, first, we have to say that the standard Bible that most Protestants use is from the Masoretic text, and there are some things that are good from the Masoretic text, but that is a Jewish text, like that is from the Jewish text. And for example, it's from Protestant. Protestant mostly use the Masoretic, while Orthodox and Catholic mostly use the Septuagint. Also, use the Septuagint.
The Septuagint,
And
you're saying, is older than the Masoretic text. That's what you're saying?
yeah, way older because
Got
the
it.
Masoretic is from is the Jewish Old Testament.
Now, in those two versions of the Bible, how do the numbers compare? Where in one it's 800,000 and then in the other it's 630,000.
Now, in the numbers, is the most logical explanation is that in one, it was approximately, I don't know how to say, but it was like a estimated number from what the writers saw and not actual counting. While in the other, they actually counted them and tried to be more specific.
Well, it's the stories are both based on the same events. So in both cases, David counted the number of Israelites and the number of people in Judah. And you're saying that the authors of, say, First Chronicles, they were just rounding. They were just estimating. So they saw a number written down and they said, well, why don't we just go ahead and change it? Why don't we just change it to a different number just for fun, just so that we could add a contradiction to the Bible? What's the purpose of changing the number as a writer? If you're copying the story down from an original source, why would you change it? The authors are seemingly creating a contradiction on purpose.
No, I don't. Now that is a reason I might have for that, but
So, I mean, we can keep going down the list. There's tons and tons of contradictions, but whether or not there are contradictions in the Bible, to me, seems irrelevant as to whether there actually is a God. I mean, it's undeniable that the Bible has tons and tons of contradictions, but even if it didn't have any, that wouldn't mean that a God exists, right? Because there's other books that don't have contradictions, and they're not written by God, right?
like, for example,
Game of Thrones, Game of
Game
Lord
of
of the
Thrones,
Rings, Cat in the Hat. They're all internally
yeah,
consistent.
for example, those were written by like I don't know how many person, but it was still written and studied in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so the books that I mentioned were written by single authors in less time, and they have no contradictions. And the Bible was written by many authors over more time, and there's more contradictions. And that's exactly what we would expect if a book was written by multiple authors over many, many years. It's bound to contradict itself, especially when it's so long.
Technically, there aren't that many contradictions. Like, I don't think I'm ready. Like, because I studied that. I know, like, if I search more, I might be able to actually respond to what you're saying. I just think now I am not ready, and I'm not here. No, I'm sorry.
We can leave the contradictions aside. I'm fine with that. In fact, I'd prefer it, to be honest. Let's say if we didn't have the Bible, if the Bible didn't exist, if no one ever copied it down, if you'd never read the Bible, would you still have any evidence that a God exists?
In the creation, like maybe like, for example, the fine tuning of the universe or something like that.
Well, I do want to point out we can't call the universe creation until we demonstrate that it has been created, because then that's smuggling our conclusion into our premise. So you mentioned fine tuning. What is it about the universe specifically that you think is fine tuned?
Like, for example, Earth, like it is. If it wasn't for for some percentile, it will collapse. There will not be lights, or like there will not be life.
If what was different, there wouldn't be life?
I don't remember now. Like I told you, I'm not. I think I'm not ready. I think I'm not.
I think
I can if I search, I can defend myself like with the faith, for example.
Sure, I can help you out a little bit. So with the fine tuning argument, essentially what we're looking at here is the constants of the universe. So there's like the strong and weak nuclear force. There's the force of gravity. There's the fact that Earth is within the Goldilocks zone, so it's a certain distance away from the sun, so it's not too cold, not too hot. The atmosphere of the Earth, all these things work together to support life, right? So then it may appear on the outside that the Earth is fine-tuned for our existence, but the fact that we exist if the Earth wasn't capable of supporting life, then we wouldn't be here to make the observation. So to me, it's incredibly unremarkable to look around and think, wow, we're life forms and we're on a planet that can support life. Well, of course, why wouldn't we be? If we were on a planet that couldn't support life, that would be a miracle. But instead, we find ourselves exactly where we would expect ourselves to be, on a planet that's fully capable of supporting life. I'd also like to point out, within the Earth, there's a lot of things that appear to be not very finely tuned. For example, you're familiar with leap days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if and granted, I've never been to Italy, so I'm kind of ignorant on the on cultural differences, but I assume you guys have the same calendar as we do and recognize the same days. So February 28th is an extra day that happens in our calendar every 4 years. And then every 100 years, we skip a leap day, but then every 400 years, we don't skip a leap day. So our calendars are super convoluted. And that's because there's an uneven number of days within 1 year. So it seems like someone just took the Earth. No, well, okay, let me back up. It doesn't seem like anyone moved the Earth. It seems like the Earth is randomly spinning at a random speed and revolving around the Earth at a random speed, and that these two numbers are not evenly divisible between each other, which is why our days and years don't match. They don't coincide. If the Earth was intelligently fine-tuned for life and God wanted us to have a consistent calendar, then one would expect him to make the number of days evenly divisible in a year. Otherwise, he's just kind of screwing us over and making our calendar unnecessarily convoluted. What do you think about that?
Mm, I don't really know. Like I already told you, I don't think I'm ready right now for debates. Now, first of all, sorry. Like, I'm just being, like,
I mean, I think you're doing fine, and I don't expect you to know everything. I certainly don't know everything. I'm just interested in why you believe in a God. That's it.
no, yeah, like, cause like, if I was in, like, if I, was, sorry, bro. If I, was, if if I debated you when I was studying that stuff, I will probably do a way better job. I think I will try at least to defend Christianity well. Like, I don't. The thing is that now I forgot a lot of stuff. I'm not really on the point. I'm more focused right now on the relationship, the more uh, practical stuff. Because back in the day, I was too focused on theology. I was too focused on that stuff, and I'm really sorry for. I'm sorry, like,
You don't need
because
to
I.
apologize. It's fine. I'm having a good time. So you mentioned that you
Oh yeah, because
are
I
focused
want to
on
defend the
your
faith. Because I wanted, like, before that, I said, oh yeah, I might have the opportunity to defend well Christianity. But now that I see, like, not responding and saying those stuff, I think that probably the people watching you that are being probably atheists, probably will think, oh, Christianity must not be true because this guy does not believe blind faith or something like that.
Well, I
I
certainly
don't.
think anyone watching this who thinks that God can't be real simply because they saw one debate and some Christian didn't know the Bible inside and out, I don't think that's any good reason to not believe in a God. And I certainly am not trying to quiz you on the Bible. But you mentioned that you have a relationship with God, and that's your main focus right now. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about that, if that's okay. So, how do you know you have a relationship with God? Because this
Well,
isn't something you need to study. This is a personal experience, right?
yeah, yeah. I have simply have faith. Like, I have faith. When I do sometimes feel an actual presence. Now these are not arguments, but uh, it's still something that it's still good. Like, it's still good. It's not an argument to prove God existence. It's not. But I have faith. I do believe, like most people. I don't always feel God. It's likely, but you still have faith that He is there.
When you say you feel God, what does God feel like?
For example, I, one time I was really anxious and I simply started praying. I can feel like the heart warming. I can feel like the mind clarity because I can't really think without I can't feel think real clearly that much. I don't know why, but I have really bad fog, a mental fog, and it's like, and you simply know.
Well, so I don't know if you know who Matt Dillahunty is. He's a host over on the line, but he has a really great point about the effectiveness of prayer, where he says prayer does work. I mean, prayer really does work. So, like, if you're, for example, trapped inside of a cave, say the walls collapse in, you're stuck in a cave, you can't get out. If you pray that God is going to help you escape, that can actually increase the likelihood that you escape. Because by praying, you're calming yourself down, you're lowering your heart rate, and you're slowing down your breathing. So by calming yourself through basically a form of meditation, you're able to consume less oxygen and then you prolong the period of time where someone could come and rescue you. So in some cases, prayer really does work. And it sounds like in yours, that's exactly what happened. You were feeling anxiety, you prayed, and then because of your prayer and because you felt like someone was watching over you, you felt like someone was there who cared about you, you weren't alone, you didn't have to go through your struggle by yourself. All these things help to calm yourself down. They lowered your heart rate, they lowered your blood pressure, and then you felt better afterwards. So do you think it's possible that prayer could be a placebo and not actually something that's tied to a real God?
Well, I think that this is not that much the thing, mostly because even when
Hey Thomas,
I'm
it's a
talking
little
about
hard to hear you.
experience.
Can you hold the mic a bit closer to your mouth?
Oh yeah, yeah. Now
That's way better. Thank
I'm
you.
now talking about experience, so I'm not um about my personal experience here. But even when I'm not anxious, even if I'm don't because I don't do like breathing stuff. I just simply pray. I just simply talk and say like it's an actual guy. I say guy here, but an actual person. I don't know, to my father, but in a way more respectful way, because he's still God. Like, but uh,
Well, when
I still feel in even in non anxious or too much struggle. What the
here's a question. When you're talking to God, do you ever hear back? Does he ever talk back to you?
now basically I do have thought of of have thought of I don't know how to say.
If you hear from God, is it like an audible voice that you physically hear, or is it like a feeling that you get inside your head?
Yeah, it's more of a feeling because
Okay.
to actually hear God loudly, you probably have to be saint level of
Or
faith.
schizophrenic.
No, no. Yeah, yeah,
Now,
it could be, but
how do you
I don't.
tell? So I have thoughts of my own, and sometimes my own head rings kind of loud. If I have a thought, I hear my inner voice. So how do we tell the difference between God talking to you and your own thoughts? How do we make the distinction between those two?
You just I think you just simply know. If you have a thought, you just think. I don't know how to say, bro.
Now, you made this appeal before where you just know, but you could be wrong, right? I mean, I might think I just know something, but if my beliefs aren't based in evidence, then I'm just setting myself up for deception.
Mm,
Before we wrap things up, I did also want to talk about some of the claims that you made in a message you sent to me. You said, um, "We don't hate gays. Every lustful sin in Leviticus is condemned by death."
well,
So
that's true. Like, for example, I am not homophobic. Like, I am against like the act, but I'm definitely not against the people. Like, for example, like may not, I might think it atheism. For example, I'm just taking an example here. I'm not offending anyone, but for example, I might think that atheism is wrong and that is a sin, but I will not go to, an atheist and tell him you are wrong and you are going to hell. And I'm not hating on the person. The same thing is with everyone. Like, I don't hate, for example, LGBTQ people. I actually no. I have a friend that that he might be gay. I don't know if he's because he doesn't talk about it much,
everyone's a
but
little bit gay,
he.
right? Because it's
Hmm?
a spectrum. Everyone's a little bit gay, right? Because it's a spectrum. I might be like a 2 out of 10 gay. You might be like a 3 out of 10 gay. I mean, we're all a little bit gay. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
I like the thoughts of the thought, like the of homosexuality in itself is not a sin. It becomes sin only when you actually practice it.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. Well, that might contradict something we hear from, I think it was in Matthew, where Jesus says, if you look on a woman with lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. So, according
yeah,
to
yeah.
Jesus, lustful thoughts can be considered sinful and just as bad as the action.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The sinful thoughts, yes.
So, what is it about homosexuality or homosexual acts specifically that you think is immoral? Do they cause harm?
I like it's in the Bible. Like, it is considered a sin. Like, it's not how the thing is that it's not how God uh, taught um, to do that. And
My understanding of a sin is that it's just any action that God doesn't like, or more specifically, an action that the people who claim to speak on God's behalf don't like. So the homophobes who wrote the Bible and Leviticus specifically, they thought being gay was icky, so that they claimed that God didn't like it and that homosexuals deserve to be stoned to death. But I want to make a distinction between sin and moral behavior. So not every sin is immoral because not every sin according to the Bible causes harm. So does homosexual action, does it cause harm in any way that's not also caused by heterosexual intercourse?
well, it causes harm to the soul, like lust. Every lustful thing in your life, not only LGBT stuff related, but also in general, or also pleasuring. It's a sin. It's still the same level, if not worse. And
How do you know there's a
also
soul?
some. Hmm?
How do you know there's a soul?
Mm, like, I don't have a certainty, but if you believe in Christianity, you believe that there is a soul.
So if I don't adhere to Christianity, I have no evidence to believe that a soul exists. And the only reason that homosexuality and self pleasure are wrong or harmful is because of the detriment they have to my soul. But if I don't have a soul, then there's no harm, right?
No, yeah, in the Christian perspective, it is a harm to the soul. In the Christian pers- per- perspective.
So if I wank it, if I self pleasure, if I spank my bank, what's going to happen to my soul? Like if I wank it every day for a month versus if I don't wank it every day for a month, what could we measure? What's different about me after the month of wanking compared to no wanking?
Well, first of all, depending on the people, it can cause you not only addiction if you do it regularly, every day or something like that, but it can also like cause last lot of not seeing a woman or man or all those guys as person, and you might just think that they are object for your pleasuring or something like this. So it is detrimental to yourself and the soul and something like that.
Well, I've actually completed this experiment myself. I have gone 30 days wanking every single day, and I can confirm that at the end of those 30 days, I didn't view other human beings as objects. I still had just as much respect for everyone around me as I did before. And I'm currently happily married to the love of my life, and we've been married for 6 years, and I still wank it every so often. So what's the
Yeah, I'm
harm?
happy for you for your marriage. I hope you well. But uh, it depends on obviously it depends on the people. Someone might have if might have the same stuff if they do it for like a year. Someone might have the same uh, thing if they do it for like a month or even a week, depending of also the type of people. So you might not be too much uh, an addictive type of guy, but if you are, or if you're something like this, if you do it, it can be detrimental to your soul and to the body. Like
Do you think shopping online is immoral? Like shopping on Amazon?
if done if done in moderation, it's not. If it's compulsive, then yes.
Love that. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going because people can become shopaholics. You can be addicted to shopping. People can go into huge credit card debt because they keep buying more and more stuff they can't afford. So there's a risk involved in becoming addicted to any activity, but in moderation, there's nothing wrong with online shopping. It's an incredibly useful tool. And in the same way, for someone who's not prone to addiction, like, I mean, most people, having gay sex or wanking it every couple of days, there's no risk, just like shopping online is risk free,
Yeah,
or I
like
should say it's
it,
harmless.
yeah, but now I like if we talk about the Christian perspective, it is considered a sin and immoral for the Christian perspective, obviously. And I like what you're saying is right for shopping. I don't think that in the Christian perspective is right with lust. I don't think that you should be acting lustfully in general because it's I don't think it's recommend. I don't.
Lust is necessary for the propagation of our species. Like if humans didn't feel lust, no one would procreate with each other.
No, yeah, I'm
Lust is
talking about
hardwired into our
lust.
bodies.
No, yeah, with lust, I'm talking about the immoral type of lust, like if you do it correctly, then it's completely fine. It's good. If you do it in a inappropriate way, I think it's not good. Like that's
And how do we tell which methods or which types of lust are appropriate and which types are inappropriate?
now you're not probably gonna like the answer. I'm gonna tell that God tell us, but I know no one here probably will take that as an actual explanation. Because
Sure, because it says
yeah,
so in
because
the
I have
Bible.
to
Yeah.
confess your thing. I have to confess your thing that I know that probably if I saw the comments that are on that on this live, I am not probably going to be perceived well. I know that I will either be mocked or worse, like um,
I can see the comments right here, and nobody's mocking you. I mean, you're doing just fine. Now, you mentioned that we can know whether which types of lusts are sinful and which ones aren't based on the Bible. So, I wanted to ask you about this particular verse. Leviticus 20 verse 13 says that gay people or people who commit homosexual actions deserve to be stoned to death. So, if we're taking the Bible as authoritative, does that mean you think in today's age we should be stoning homosexuals?
That is the law of the old covenant, and the new covenant I've forgiven. It's for Jesus, like it is. It can be very forgivable just by repenting. And obviously, in the Old Testament, it's very a physical thing. It's a very um, more harsh stuff, but it is the same treatment as every other sinful activities. For example, if wanking it was stuff the did by the ancient people, I just call them that. It will be obviously mentioned in the Bible. It will still it will still have the same treatment as every other simple activity.
So hang on, I'm going to close the door. The dog's going nuts. I'll be right back in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, no, fine, fine.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the old covenant and the new covenant, why did God think it was necessary to make harsher rules for the ancient Israelites than we abide to now?
Well, because God is just, and because in before there was Jesus, um, there are how can I tell? Uh, like
Well, if God is
before,
just, then wouldn't true justice have the same rules regardless of whether Jesus is around or not?
because in the Old Testament is how like I say should, but it is before you say anything that can be me saying homophobic stuff or something like that. It is the thing to every type of sin. So even just swearing or something like that is can be considered with a death penalty for every sin cause death or something like that, or at least is in depending of the gravity of the sin, it is attributed punishment. Those punishment the were just, but God um uh, how can I say
You really think
it?
that all the laws in the Old Testament are just and good?
The lost of the deaf people.
So, like, here, I just want to bring up one example from Deuteronomy, chapter 22, starting in verse 13, demands that women be stoned to death if they can't demonstrate they were a virgin on their wedding night, which is impossible. So, if a man gets married and then 2 years later he says, I think this woman right here, my wife, I'm starting to doubt she was a virgin when we got married. If he accuses her of not being a virgin, her parents have to prove that she was. And if they can't, then the town stones her to death. Do you think that's moral?
Well, it's probably something against like having sex before marriage. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it is immoral. It is immoral as an act,
Why?
and because it is not how God taught us to do that. Because like I am like I
Well, I don't
can't.
expect you to have answers for all this stuff. I mean, these are tough
No,
questions.
yeah, the
And these
problem is
are,
that I admit that I do not have the capabilities to respond to most of your question, and I'm realizing that by accepting to do such to this debate, I'm just doing a bad image to Christianity because I know that if there was someone that actually studied greatly that stuff, because I studied both sides. I studied both sides, so I studied both the atheist perspective and the Christian perspective. And at the end, I thought that the Christian was more, I think, was the true one. but it was so much time ago and that I can't remember. And now I have to tell you that I'm really
Well, and
mentally
I
foggy.
appreciate your honesty, and there's nothing wrong with not having an answer. But from my time studying these questions, what I've learned is that no Christian apologist has good answers to these questions. No one has a good answer for why it's so immoral to have sex before marriage, other than God says so. I mean, you nailed it. That's the best that apologists have. So I think that maybe you would benefit from, instead of thinking like it's your job to defend Christianity, think of Christianity as needing to defend itself to you. You need to decide whether you think Christianity is well, you don't need to assume that Christianity is perfect and there's a good explanation for everything. I think that's one of the most dangerous things anyone can do, is to assume that there's good answers out there before they find them. I think we should withhold belief until we find good justifications. And I think that asking these types of questions and coming across verses like the one in Deuteronomy 22, I think these are really great ways to deconstruct our faith and come to grips with the fact that the Bible, especially the Old Testament and the New Testament, have horribly immoral laws and sanctions. I mean, these are some of man's first attempts at morality. And in from today's modern lens, after we've had a chance to grow and mature, it's incredibly obvious that the Bible is full of nonsense. It's full of garbage. And there are no good answers for a lot of this stuff out there, which is why, it's not a failure on your part, it's a failure on Christianity, because no one can defend this stuff adequately.
No, I have to say the problem that I have is not that I can't prove Christianity. Because if I talk to, for example, I had a debate this summer with one of my atheist friends, and he was talking about evolution and all that stuff. I could explain that well, and I defend it fairly well. And he thought for a moment. Now he's not Christian, but he did thought for a moment. The problem is that um, I can't prove that right now. Not only because I am really mentally foggy, I can't even think uh, clearly right now. But the problem is that I studied that so long ago. Like I studied that. I know because I studied uh, those this stuff months ago, and now I hold on to that, and now I'm trying to focus more on the relationship part, but on the theological thing stuff, I can I like what was I talking about? I was can you help me a bit right now?
Yeah. So, well, I'm curious to know more about this. You said you did a debate about evolution, and so I'm assuming you were advocating against evolution. You were arguing that creationism is a better alternative.
No. I am a pro evolution. I am not a young Earth creationist. And I think that if you uh, don't take the Genesis too literally, it can actually fit well. Because if you take Genesis more of a simplification, it does quite resonate well both with science and the Bible. Like, for example, the orders in which the days of the Genesis were made, it's actually correct. And in the fourth day because in the first day it says that the sun was not visible from Earth, and the, the sun was not visible from Earth,
Well,
and
I gotta
it
pause
was
you because
visible.
a lot of the stuff in the Genesis account completely contradicts our understanding based on science. So, from the very first verse, Genesis gets it wrong. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But the earth wasn't formed in the beginning. The earth formed 9 billion years after the start of the universe. So, the earth
Well,
was
yeah,
long after the beginning.
yeah, but in the beginning is in the beginning of the world.
So that's where it gets it wrong again, because if the earth was here first in the beginning, If we scroll ahead to day 4, which is after God made plants on day 3, that's when God made the sun, moon, and stars. So according to Genesis, we had earth first, and then we had plants, and then we had the sun. But in reality, it was the sun first, and then the earth, and then plants. So it's completely wrong in every regard.
I was
We also have light existing before the sun or any stars. So light was on day 2, but the sun and stars weren't formed until day 4. So where was the light coming from?
from, I think, from the lava that where was on. I don't remember, bro. I can't remember.
Genesis also talks about a firmament that surrounds the earth, like a dome made like a cast metal mirror. And so, according to the Bible, the earth is actually flat. It's a flat disc. In Job, it talks about how the earth is a disc and not actually a sphere. It calls it a disc. And in other places, Job and some elsewhere too, it says that the earth is resting on pillars. And so we have this model of the earth that the Bible advocates for is a flat disc resting on pillars with a solid dome on top of it. And then the sun and moon are inside the dome, and above the dome is water. And that's where rain comes from, because the dome leaks and then the rainwater trickles down. But we know now that none of that is even remotely true. In your message to me, you also said we don't condone infanticide, but your God does, because in Deuteronomy 20, he orders people to unalive babies. He orders infanticide. And God himself unalives millions of babies in the flood story and elsewhere. He kills David's son after he betrays God. He kills David's son. He kills all sorts of babies and children. There's 42 children who make fun of Elisha for being bald, and then God sends 2 bears to maul them to death. So the God of the Bible is very pro-infanticide. Let me ask you a question. If infanticide is immoral, then doesn't that make God immoral for condoning infanticide and committing it?
Yeah, but I remember that the one that God did were for reasons, for not like it's. I can't remember,
Do you
bro.
think there's any good reason to drown a baby? To hold a baby underwater and drown it? Do you think there's ever a good justification for that?
I don't remember. I don't.
Well, I'm not
The
asking about something that's happened in the past. I'm just asking, do you think that there would ever be a good reason to drown a baby?
mm, no.
The justification that God gives in Genesis 6 is that the whole human race was corrupted by sin and that humans had evil thoughts all the time. So
Yeah, but it's most probably that, for example, that child probably, I don't know, went to heaven or something. I don't know. Like,
do you think the flood story is literal, or is that metaphorical?
I don't, I, s- I don't know about that. I didn't study that.
Well, if you're happy to
It's
accept that
I think it's probably a regional thing and not a global stuff.
yeah, I think that's a lot more reasonable. And if you're willing to accept that the creation story is more metaphorical, not literal, then I would certainly encourage you to do the same for the flood story, because the flood story is just as, if not even more ridiculous and absurd than the creation story. But if it was based on from my perspective, from a secular perspective, there probably was a local flood in Mesopotamia, and then this is why we have so many different flood myths, like the Bible and the Epic of Gilgamesh. We have many flood myths from the same area. But the thing about the one in the Bible is that it specifically says every single human on earth was fully corrupted by sinful thoughts all the time. And God regretted making humans, so he needed to wipe every person off the face of the earth. And it says that the floodwaters covered the entire planet above the peaks of the tallest mountains by 15 cubits, and every single living thing on the entire surface of the planet perished. So if it was a local flood, then that means God's goal of destroying every living thing on the planet completely failed. What do you think about that?
What?
It looks like I'm breaking your brain.
No, because I can't think clearly right now. I can't.
Maybe you need a Snickers. You know, you're not you when you're hungry. Now, I just want to bring up one more claim that you made, which is that most of my morals come from Christian morals.
Yeah.
Now, I would completely reject that because most of many of the things the Bible claims are moral, I reject wholeheartedly. Like the Bible advocates for slavery. It says women must be quiet. The man is the head of the household as Christ is the head of the church. Whereas I think men and women should be treated as equal. We should be partners in a marriage and not dominant over our wives. The man is not the head of the household. Men and women should be equally in charge of the household. I think slavery is incredibly horrible and one of the darkest streaks on human history of all time.
No, I was saying the thing I was saying is that how do I put it? The thing I was saying
What are some of my morals or something you think I think is moral, which you believe I got from Christianity?
Love your brothers, probably. I can't remember other stuff.
Well, I actually don't even have any brothers. I have one sister, but I understand that you're using that word to mean like fellow humans, fellow human beings, neighbors. And I
Yeah,
do love
yeah.
people, but people loved each other long before the Bible was written. The Bible didn't invent love.
No,
Do you
yeah,
think
but
that
it was you like, for example, like to love your enemies or something like that was from the Bible before
I like
you.
Christopher Hitchens has a great response to that, which is, I don't love my enemies. I want to destroy my enemies.
Uh,
So I would say I don't necessarily agree that I love my enemies. I do love my fellow human beings. I love my brothers and my neighbors, colloquially speaking. But love existed long before the Bible. The Bible didn't invent love. And certainly the Bible doesn't even promote loving your neighbors and treating them like yourself. Back in the Old Testament, God commanded the Israelites to commit total genocide on all the tribes around them. In Deuteronomy 20, verses 16 and 17, God tells the Israelites to completely destroy 6 of their neighboring tribes. He says, leave alive nothing that breathes, including babies. And so this is how God wanted the Israelites to treat their neighbors. Just those specific 6 tribes, but all the ones surrounding those, all the rest of their neighbors did not get the luxury of dying. They had the choice between either dying or becoming slaves against their will. And that's how God says he wants to treat everyone around them. He wants the Israelites to treat every single tribe around them like that, either killing them if they belong to those 6 specific tribes, the Canaanites, Hivites, Hittites, Jebusites, Perizzites, but then all the surrounding tribes that don't get named, those get the choice between death or slavery. And that's how the Bible says we should treat our neighbors, killing them and enslaving them. And I reject that. So do you have anything else? Any other morals that you think I got from Christianity? I'm
I can't
anti-slavery.
remember. I can't remember.
The Bible's
I
very
have,
pro-slavery. In Exodus 21, it says
yeah,
that you
but
can beat your slaves with a rod as long as they don't die. In Leviticus 25, it says you can buy slaves from the nations around you, keep them forever, and pass them on to your children. But I think slavery is wrong, full stop. I think there's never a good reason to own a human being as property or beat them. Do you think slavery is okay?
I don't think it's okay, but in the older times, in the ancient times, it was more of you were a slave for a period of time and not for your entire life because you maybe did something or you were like a prisoner of war.
So in
Uh,
Exodus 21, it says that Israelite slaves need to be released after 7 years of work. But in Leviticus 25, it says that foreign slaves who you buy from other nations may be kept forever. It says in Leviticus 25, you can buy your slaves from other nations. It specifically says you can keep them for life. And if you die, then you can bequeath them to your children as inherited property because they are your money. It calls people money. And so earlier, when we were talking about wanking off, you said that the risk of that is that it might make you objectify other humans. That's exactly what the Bible does. It objectifies people and denigrates them to nothing but farm equipment. And I think you would agree that that's wrong, right?
hmm?
Did slavery used to be okay and now it's not?
Hmm?
Did it used to be okay to own a slave and then now it's not okay?
Uh,
You're looking a little pale. You feeling okay?
no, yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
Okay. Need some water or anything? I might take a drink here too.
No, I'm good, I'm good.
One more claim that you made. You said, I don't know who hurt you in a church, as if that's the reason that I reject Christianity.
No,
Would you
yeah,
say,
I
go
have
ahead.
to say a thing. I did was frustrated a bit when I was reading that because you insulted God and all that stuff, and I did was a bit pissed off. I have to admit it. I am say sorry if I was a bit rude. I just was. I'm sorry if I was a bit rude, but if I was intending that if you made like if you ended up being an atheist, maybe because bef like at first because maybe a church hurt you. I said I am really sorry for that. So it was more of a if you were hurt by religious people or by a church, I am really sorry for that and I don't condone it.
Well, and
I
I
just but
appreciate your apology, but I think the issue that I took with the statement, and I really do appreciate you for apologizing for it, but you don't necessarily have to be, sorry about being rude if what you're saying is true. The issue that I initially had was that it seemed like you were implying that the only reason someone could reject Christianity is because of a negative experience in church.
no,
Or-
that was not what I was saying. I mean if you were uh starting to like hate like if you were starting to become atheist because of that, I am sorry if you did pass through that. It was because maybe like I saw your video insulting the Trinity and all that stuff, and I was like maybe I don't know, this guy was hurt by some religious people
It was kind
or
of a
maybe
funny
like
video, right?
nah, I have to say that like I'm
Well,
sorry, but I
and
I
here's the
I I will not say the same thing about atheists. Like I do respect atheists, and if you truly respect someone, you should not like if you have the right to go against Christianity, all you want. Like people can still debate if you're true or wrong, but you have the right to say that. But it becomes not. I think it becomes rude and childish. Sorry, but I think it becomes not worth it and just make you look bad when you're actively insulting someone believes. Like I go to a communist, for example, and just insult their idea and I don't know, like, and they are at the right to be mad. Like, I think I have to like be at least pissed about what you were saying.
I think maybe one of the biggest differences between how I view this subject and how you view it is that I don't think ideas deserve respect necessarily. And I don't think that the fact that someone believes in an idea with a lot of passion necessarily means we need to respect that idea. I think there's a lot of toxic and horrible ideas out there that don't deserve any respect. In fact, they deserve the ultimate amount of disrespect. Ideas which encourage harm, ideas which encourage slavery, misogyny, infanticide. I think these things that Christianity promotes in its holy book doesn't deserve a shred of respect. Now, I do respect people, and I respect you, and I respect your right to have beliefs. I think you should be free to adhere to whatever religion you want, so long as your religious practices don't infringe on the freedoms of anyone else. But I don't think ideas, especially those which cannot be demonstrated, deserve any respect. But I actually had really positive experiences when I was a Christian in church. I loved church. I thought it was fun. I went to a Protestant church. I was non-denominational. People hear the word young earth creationist and they think it's a cult, but it's, and I'm sure not everyone at my church even was a young earth creationist. Maybe that was just my family and I. But our church was a blast. We had Wednesday night youth activities. We'd go over to church. There'd be game nights. We'd play games. It was active. There'd basically be like 20, 30 minutes of listening to a lecture about God, and then there'd be an hour of fun activities with other kids. It was awesome. I loved church. It was great. So I didn't leave Christianity because I had any negative experiences with church or someone hurt me or someone touched me in a weird way. I only left Christianity simply because I realized I never had any good reason to believe any of the supernatural claims from the very beginning. I never had any good reason to believe there was a God in the first place. And a lot of the things which the Bible promotes are incredibly immoral. Most of the time in my church, a lot of the stuff that I would hear from the pulpit was positive. They would preach about, staying faithful in your marriage or treating each other well, or here's how you can get over depression, anxiety. They would talk about real problems and real solutions. So I think church can be beneficial, but I think that it's harmful to promote a book which encourages harm. The book itself is an abomination. And I think that churches are mostly filled with good people who mean well. They want to be moral. They want to be advocates of humanism without necessarily even knowing that's what they're doing. But churches are using Christianity and the Bible to encourage people to get in the door because that's what they're used to. But just like with any belief, it evolves over time. And so the Bible was written 2,000 to 4,000 years ago, or 6,000 years ago in the Old Testament. It's a really old book. And a lot of the stuff that the Bible promotes, we've graduated far past since then. And I think that we would all benefit from just taking the Bible and taking anything good that we can find out of it and, living by what we find is good, but not necessarily accepting the fact that the whole book is good right from the jump, because there's no evidence for that. I think that there's nothing wrong with taking some good morals from the Bible and leaving out the rest, because there's a lot of bathwater. There's a lot of garbage that's in the Bible that should be tossed out. Did you say in the beginning that you were a theist and then became an atheist and then returned to theism? Or were you brought up in a secular household? Were you an atheist from a young age?
Yeah, yeah. My family is. mostly atheist and not religious.
Okay. Sure. And that's interesting. And those kind of testimonies, I think, are usually the most interesting, where someone was an atheist, and even like you were born into an mostly atheist family, but something convinced you that there's a God. You mentioned how, the Bible, and how you came to realize a lot of contradictions you thought were contradictions might actually have excuses for them, and that the Gospels have, authentic authorship, and that those were the two reasons you mentioned for your belief in God. Before we wrap up, was there any other evidence for God's existence that you wanted to present?
I don't remember other. And the thing is that
You mind
I
picking the mic up a little
like,
closer to your face? Sorry.
oh yeah, yeah. Like the thing is that some of your claim I actually like, for example, the authorship of the Bible and the most of the contradiction and all the stuff. I already studied them, and it just pissed me off a bit. It's for myself. I am pissed by myself that I can't remember that stuff. Like it's kind of strange, bro. Like I don't. It's kind of strange if you think about it, because I actually, bro, I'm actually in a debate where I can't remember anything, and thinking that I'm just thinking because I know that uh, most of your claim do have explanation. And the thing is that I already studied most of them. There are some I never heard, and I might study. Uh, but the thing is that most of the thing you said, I used to remember. I used to remember, and I used to, uh, and before I was certain. I am, I believe there is a God, but I know that now I can't remember
I mean,
most of the stuff.
apologists
Like I
have.
can't,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
like,
off. Go ahead.
oh, no, if I'm sorry, bro. The thing is that I really would, I would really love to actually present you some evidence. The problem is that I can't remember anything. Like
Sure.
I
Well,
don't
and you
know.
mentioned that a lot of the contradictions have justifications for them, and it's true that people have known about most of these contradictions for thousands of years. So the church fathers have excuses for these contradictions. They have supposed justifications, but a lot of them fall completely flat. Like, for example, Judas's death, which is talked about in Matthew 27:5 and Acts 1:18. So this one you might be familiar with. In one version, Judas uses the money he got for betraying Jesus to buy a field, and then he was running around in his field. He tripped, and then he fell headlong, and then his intestines spilled out of his body. But in another version, he threw away the money that he got and then hanged himself. And so both of these claims cannot be true at the same time. But apologists will make excuses like, oh, Judas used hanged himself, and then the rope snapped, and then he fell into a field, and then his intestines split open, and then the people who found his money used it to buy that field, so it was still his money being used. So you can do mental gymnastics to reconcile any two propositions, no matter how completely and radically different and mutually exclusive they are, but that doesn't mean it's a good explanation.
Well, yeah, like I think it's logical. I think the Christian explanation is. I think it's logical. Uh, uh,
You think it's logical that someone could hang themselves and then the rope snaps and then their guts spill out when they fall on the ground?
well, it's possible. Like
It might be possible, but the issue that I have with that excuse is that it's fabricating its own narrative because it's a specific attempt at reconciling two competing narratives. And no one who reads either of those two accounts independently would ever posit that that's what actually happened. But because apologists are trying to reconcile two contradictions, they're making up their own version of the Bible to do so.
Now I get where you are feeling going. I think that the Christian explanation I heard for now are logical. Um, like I can't even. I don't know.
Another claim that you made is that you said, I'm twisting the Bible. And I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, but do you have any specific example of Bible verses or scriptures that you think I twisted?
Now I was mostly talking about when you said uh, I don't remember the. It was a time where you like I think you read two verses and you said there were contradiction, but in reality, those verses said two complete different thing from both contexts and the even the word is used. I don't remember.
Yeah, without knowing
Uh,
the specific example, I don't know if we can go into too much depth over, a hypothetical contradiction like that. But I noticed in a lot of my videos when I bring up a contradiction, some Christians will just type the word context or read the context. And then when I see that, all I can think is, you didn't read and I'm saying you, I'm the person who commented, not necessarily you, Thomas, but to them, you didn't read the context. You just assume that there's some context out there which explains it. And I see this all the time from Christians. More people just comment the word context than people who actually attempt to reconcile the contradiction. And so to me, it seems
no,
like very lazy apologetics by just assuming there's a good explanation out there without even investigating what it is. Not saying you're doing that necessarily, but that's just what I see from a lot of people who comment on my videos.
no, yeah, I do agree on the essential of what they are saying, like that the context matter on so obviously on some really intricate book like the Bible, but I also think that with if you what you said that if you said that what were you saying that you said you used not in the video but in what you said now was that if you gave written with right context and not uh, give context, or if you write context and you you don't, you just assume there's some context, that's not a lazy apologetic. I do agree with that. I have like the contradiction that I know that the most you brought up and that I saw from your videos. Uh, um, I actually searched the context. I think it's
Do you know which
pretty.
contradiction this is?
Uh, I don't remember. I don't. As I said before, I
Sure.
can't.
And without knowing the specific contradiction, we're not going to be able to get into too much detail about it, other than just speaking in pretty vague terms. So yeah, I mean, maybe let's do this. Maybe we pause for now, and then if you want to go back and maybe rewatch the debate, see what questions you struggled to answer, use that as a guide to do some further research and prepare yourself for next time. Then maybe we can have another debate in the future.
I like. I don't really. I don't think I can I am not the the level for debating, but I I don't think I am at the level for debating, even if I
Sure,
searched.
and you don't necessarily have to debate. That's not a necessity to deconstruct your beliefs. I would encourage you, whether you ever do another debate or not, is just to do research, watch videos, listen to people, read the Bible, learn as much as you can, because the more questions you ask, the more information you gain, the closer you get to recognizing that the Bible is full of lies. It's full of contradictions. The morality or supposed morality that the Bible promotes is absolute garbage. It's a toxic book filled with immoral rubbish. So I would just encourage you to go back and, whether, like I said, whether or not you ever do another debate again, just do as much research as you can, try to learn as much as you can, and, take in as much knowledge as possible. And hopefully, I'd love for you to reconsider your beliefs, and perhaps even, if you can't find a good justification for your belief in God, maybe like me, you'll recognize that nobody does.
Now I think that. Sorry, one sec.
Ooh, it got dark and spooky. And what time is it over there in Italy? I'm not even sure what the time difference is.
It's 1 p.m. It's 1 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, geez, 1 a.m.
So uh, I was saying that I will do my research as much as I can. I because I will do my research. I will. How do I say it? I don't. But the thing is that now I am very baffled, and I would like to do research, but at the same time, right now, I am also so foggy that I cannot even comprehend what they could say, and it's kind of frustrating for
Yeah,
me.
and that might be because it's 1 in the morning, of course. And I appreciate you staying up in order to have a conversation. But
No,
uh, you
no, the
know,
thing is not that it's like 1 in the morning. I feel like that every single day, bro. Like
oh,
I feel
have you been
foggy
getting
every
enough
single
sleep?
day. Yeah, yeah, but I like, for example, I don't even know if I get enough sleep. I don't even remember. Like,
Well, one thing you could try is praying to God and asking Him to allow the Holy Spirit to clear your mind.
yeah, yeah, that actually worked.
Or,
But
one thing that works for me a lot of the times too is just wanking off. Maybe you just need to
wow,
wank off more, and then you'll have more mental clarity.
nah, bro, that's not it.
It's
It
worth a
make me
try.
Nah, bro, it make me feel very bad. I don't like it. I am actually battling that. I'm trying to stop as much as possible
Well, that's your
because
problem. If you quit trying
because
to
it
stop and just
has
did it more, then your brain fog would go away.
nah, bro. That thing has worried me. That that has worried me. I'm trying to go away from it.
Yeah, well, maybe before you go to bed tonight, just rub one out for Jesus, and then, maybe it'll clear your head, and then you'll sleep better.
Nah, bro. I don't think that's it. Like,
Well, it's definitely worth a shot, in my opinion. But of course, you are free to do whatever it is you think is best for yourself. And Thomas, it's been a interesting experience talking to you. I really appreciate you having the conversation and being willing to hop on here and defend your beliefs and your claims. A lot of
no, the
people
thing is
don't
that
have that
I
kind of
think.
courage. So it's admirable
Sorry
that
for
you're getting out
sorry
there.
if I interrupt. Sorry if I interrupted.
No, you're good. Well, I didn't hear what you said.
I just realized. I think I should have either not joined because I can't defend my faith right now. I can't like I'm like uh I can't even I know I brought that up a lot of time in that live, but I can't even think of a logical explanation right now. Because maybe in the day I can even like rationally think and maybe get an actual response to that. And but like right now, I just can't.
Well, you know,
It's
let me
not
let me
because
share
it's what
this,
I
and then
am
I'll I'll,
doing,
I'll
but
share this, and then I'll cut you loose. About 10 years ago, when I was 20 years old, I recognized that I couldn't defend my belief. I couldn't defend my faith. When I was in college, somebody asked me if I believed in God, and I said yes. And they said, "Why do you believe in God?" And I didn't have a good reason other than I just believe, and this is what I was told was the case since I was a kid. I was embarrassed that I couldn't defend my own faith. I couldn't give a good justification for my belief. And that realization is what sent me down the realm of deconstruction. It's what encouraged me to start looking into it and start asking questions and demanding evidence for claims. And when I realized I couldn't find any good evidence to justify a belief in God, I realized I was an atheist. So I hope
no,
that
yeah,
happens to you. I hope that you continue your journey and continue learning and growing and searching. So best of luck to you, Thomas. And thanks again for the conversation. I hope you have
like
an
like
amazing rest of your day, rest of your night,
like
anyway.
yeah, yeah, but I was saying like I am like sorry like I think like every I see yeah I remember every time I actually looked up like because I had a lot of doubt when I studied Christianity. I was uh, watching a lot of atheist videos, and I was every time I watched them, I was baffled. I was doubting a lot. But I don't know. But every time I searched, and I searched a lot of time, I just came up with. I just uh, learned that Christianity was the actual better explanation, and I could defend. And I could defend it. Yeah, I could defend it. I could do all the stuff I could,
Yeah,
but
and after
now
doing some more
it's
research and
very
some more study,
difficult.
maybe you'll get back to the point where you can adequately defend it again. But until then, Thomas, once again, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to another conversation in the future if it ever does happen. So, yeah, I think we will go ahead and wrap things up for today. And any closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
No, yeah, but maybe it's also because I'm conditioned by the fact that this is something public, so it might also be important. Like maybe in a personal conversation, I will be much looser and much uh, confident. I don't know. I will search the things you brought again and again because I keep forgetting. I know I brought that a lot of time. I have a really big trouble with uh, remembering stuff, and so I
Yeah,
this
so
is
do
a
I.
loop.
My wife
This is a
reminds me of
loop.
that all the time.
This is a loop, bro. Like this, I've every time it's the same cycle. I am the pinnacle of my relationship. Then I saw an argument, or maybe a debate, or maybe I saw some uh, atheist stuff. Then I uh, search. Then I doubt. I then I search. I do my research. I try to find a better explanation, and then after I found all the explanation, I am again at the pinnacle. and that is a cycle that is going on over and over again because of my trouble with remembering stuff. It's a curse, bro. Like it's something I really hate because I can't remember anything, bro. I can't. I am just like I'm just living, but I can't remember what I am living. It's kind of complicated, and um, I am asking uh, God for help. He does help me. I actually, it does help me. I uh, I am again. I'm sorry, not only for like maybe for the viewers that it might be a lame stuff because I am not prepared. I know I'm sorry for you because
Well, hey,
I'm sorry for you because yeah, I
you don't need to
couldn't
go on a big.
defend. I
You don't
couldn't
need to
actually had
apologize.
a debate.
It's all good, Thomas. You don't need to apologize for anything. You came on here with enough courage to get on the live and defend your claims and defend your beliefs, and not everyone even has that. So you're already leagues ahead of many theists. So in that regard, I
No,
think
yeah,
you're doing an all right job.
the bad thing is that I feel kind of bad because I don't neither have the skill to defend or go against what you're saying. But I know that if I were, because if I actually, uh, I know that if I actually remember all the stuff I learned in the past year and a half, or more even, if I can
Yeah, well,
remember it all, I will probably actually, no, I don't say defend well or because you probably studied more than me. But if I had the same level of studying as you, and I would actually remember all this stuff, I think we could have had a great debate, and I could defend it, and that I could actually give you maybe even give some troubles. I don't know, like,
sure, and
but
I'm happy to
I am
speculate
not
about that,
ready. I
offline. But
cannot do that. I can defend the faith for myself, but I cannot uh, go it for other people. Like I don't know like you, uh, because of this trouble remembering and all that stuff.
sure. Well, and Thomas, just what I would encourage you to do again is rewatch this video, which will be on my YouTube channel, and then listen to where you think you fell short of providing evidence and claims, or evidence of your claims, and then use that as a guide to go out and do some research. And whether or not we have a conversation in the future, I'd still love for you to dive into the claims that I made and see if you can find good rebuttals to them. And I think that would be a really useful tool in your deconstruction. But once again, Thomas, it's been real. I've had fun. So we will go ahead and wrap things up for today. I want to thank everyone out there for watching today's exchange. And if you're interested in having a debate with me, you're more than welcome to email me at flyingspaghettiauditor@gmail.com or message me on Instagram and we can set up a debate. That's how I met Thomas. So hopefully everyone out there has an awesome rest of your Sunday. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.
Like, sorry, can like now if you turn like just the live off, can we still like
Sure. Yeah,
talk
I'll
in
do that right
private? Like,
now.
so at least I